the often unseen mental health challenges faced by first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and 911 dispatchers. By sharing their stories, fostering understanding, and promoting resources for support and healing, we aim to break down stigma, advocate for improved mental health services within the first responder community, and inspire hope and resilience. This is the Weight We Carry podcast.
What's going on, guys? It's Bart and Brittany from the Weight We Carry podcast. Today, we have some brothers from local number 1, the Pittsburgh Firefighters peer support team. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Good.
And if you would, guys, give yourself a brief introduction, then we'll get into all the questioning and what you guys have to offer to the first responder community.
Yep. My name's Bobby Hillen. I've been a City of Pittsburgh firefighter for going on 13 years now. I work out of 17 Engine and Truck in Homewood, and I am one of our original 6 members, founding members for our peer support team.
Awesome.
Hey, Mark Bruner. I'm starting my 26th year next month as a firefighter. I'm on our executive board. I'm a trustee on our union executive board. I'm also, with Bobby, one of the founding members of the peer support team.
Fantastic. We love what you guys are doing, and we really appreciate you guys reaching out to come on. We feel, and if you guys have been watching, it's one of the most important things for public safety is having the peer support and having a place for people to reach out if they're struggling. And we know how hard that is for us as first responders to do that, to even start that process is to reach out.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So for those that are unfamiliar, can you explain what a peer support team is and how it differs from a more traditional model like CISM or CISM?
So with the CISM team, they're basically responding to exactly that, a critical incident. Whether, in our realm, it being a fatal fire or a mass casualty incident for police officers, it could be something as tragic as the Tree of Life shooting. Where peer support differs from that is that it's all encompassing. So we recognize the need that, that in our realm, there's not as much fires as there were in the 90s. Things are safer, suppression systems, and even as firefighters ourselves, we've transitioned from just traditional firefighting to responding to first responder calls, EMS calls. I mean, you name it, the fire department seems to be the catch-all garbage can of responding to stuff. So with that and encompassing a peer team, we recognize the need that it's not just what you're seeing and doing at work, it's what happens at home, it's what happened before you ever started. 70% of our membership are prior service veterans. So they're coming home from Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever they may have been. They saw stuff, dealt with stuff. They can pinpoint it to that time and location, and they feel that it's over and it's done with. Then you jump into the first responder world where that isn't the case, and it's continually repetitive.
Yeah.
And what's the number one way first responders take care of stuff? They start to self-medicate.
Sure do.
And that's why a peer model where we're not mental health professionals by any means, but we understand what they're going through because we've already done it.
Yeah. And a lot of our folks, they don't want to go and talk to anybody because the stigma is if you go talk to someone about your feelings, you're weak.
Yep.
Soft. And this is our way of reaching out to them. Hey, we have the same issues. We see the same things as you. So let's move forward and get us the right help to prolong our lives instead of taking your own actions. Like Bob said, self-medicating with alcohol. which you see all the time. Like after in our profession, everything revolves around alcohol. You have a death, you're at the bar. Golf outing, you're at the bar. Fire, the next after shift, you're at the bar. So let's try to change up that mentality to, hey, it's okay to go get help, but
And it's such a recurring thing we hear is the stigma. The stigma is what we're all trying to fight. And if we don't, we're going to continue to have our brothers and sisters, going down that path of either self-medicating or even worse, hurting themselves. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to come in and let everyone know what we have to offer for everyone out there. Okay.
So the team started as a CASM model. What gaps did you notice that led to forming a more comprehensive peer support team?
I mean, it kind of falls back to with where we started. You started to see divorce rates. We started to dig deep into looking at things. How many times have you seen a news broadcast? You don't see on the news some random person getting a DUI and having an accident. But if there's a first responder, you see, Pittsburgh firefighter, Ross Westview medic, you name it, that they advertise that, in a DUI. Why was that person in a DUI? You know what I mean? That most DUIs, and it's statistic driven, aren't happening because the person is going out to have a good time.
And unfortunately for us in our professions, we're a tagline. The people who are supposed to be helping you just got caught. It doesn't help the individual who did, that situation did occur to. It doesn't help their name be plastered all over the news. So that's one of the reasons why, another reason, for us to.
And how many times did you go to work and, John over there was always that engaging, happy person, and now he's isolated, not talking, angry with everybody short. What's going on? Nobody asked that question. And that was the drive behind going from that CISM model, or that more traditional model, into the peer support program. Because it's not like we reinvented the wheel. In the firehouse, we've been doing peer support since the very beginning. We just found a label to put on it and something to call it. I mean, when you sit down at the kitchen table and the ball busting and what happened on that call, that conversation, more than, chow's good, thanks for cooking, that conversation is peer support.
Mm-hmm. What were you guys seeing in the fire service, either in Pittsburgh or the region, that showed this change was necessary?
I would say the big breaking point for it was COVID. If you can pinpoint one thing that came out of that giant ass debacle that lasted a handful of years, was it really shined a light on first responder mental health. The essential employees were forced to go to work and be in the public eye. Well, who was more that public eye than first responders? Because now everybody's trapped at home, and those 911 calls spiked through the roof. Whether it was for domestics or illness because people weren't going to the hospital or the doctor on their regular appointments to be seen. And now, Grandma Joe, she got to go to her appointments once a month. She maintained a pretty healthy lifestyle. Now she's not, and it's telehealth, and you're walking in and doing CPR on somebody that you'd seen walk up and down the street 3 months prior. Yeah. The constant hammering of everyone else's life falling apart is what I think shined that light on first responder mental health.
Why is peer-to-peer support such a powerful model, especially in the first responder world?
So it works because our guys don't like to go and talk to clinicians. They don't want to talk to other people. But like Bobby said, you sit around a table, that's when the people open up to you, because we see the same things and we experience the same things as the other individuals we work with. So it's good because when you see something that's tragic, you were always taught that, hey, kids, suck it up, Buttercup, move on. We got another call we got to go on. We were always taught and trained, even in, well, so back that up a little bit, even in the military, it's the same mentality. And 70% of our members are military. So they already have that that mindset going forward is, oh, you just suck it up and go on to the next call. Nobody would let it out. Everyone would compartmentalize it and keep it in. And that's when we start seeing it. And we need to go and make it normal. We need to change the normalcy, make it normal for our individuals to talk to the actual healthcare providers who specialize with us. And like when we started, a lot of the meetings in the beginning was the team meeting with different clinicians, different experts in the field of the wide range of contacts that we have now. Is in the beginning it was building up our program to say, and now we have that program built, and everyone that we use that's in our list, we as a team vetted that individual already. So when I go up to see one of our individuals, we're like, hey, look, you can go see this person, like they'll help you out. That's me telling him. But if they pick up the phone and call the city and say, hey, I need help, the city, not in a bad way, but they don't know, the people they'll send them to doesn't know our business and what we see on a day-to-day basis. That's why I think the peer support is good, is because we met these individuals, we vetted these people in the different roles in their professions, that to make sure that they know us, what we need as a team and as a department.
And one of the things that really carries weight with that with it being a peer-to-peer program, if Mark came up, you saw Mark out on the street, Brett, and I'm sorry, Bart. Oh my goodness. I was talking to Brett earlier. But you saw Mark out on the street, and let's say you guys had never met, you run a couple calls together and you notice that his demeanor and his behavior is changing, and you ask him something. He's, no, man, I'm good. I'm fine. Because he doesn't know you.
Yeah.
That peer-to-peer response, there's a trust factor in that when the guy or the gal sitting across from you is wearing the same shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And because what's the common phrase? Telephone, tell the fireman, and everyone knows. So I may not work with, firefighter Smith on the other side of the city, but he doesn't want the people he works with to know that he's reaching out for help. But he calls me and says, hey, I know you're on the peer team. We don't really know each other well. We bumped into each other at a union meeting or a sporting event, something. But they said you're on the peer team and you'd be able to help me get some help. And that trust factor, just because of the name on our shirt, is what carries that weight.
And I think, in regards to, like you said, going to speak to the professionals, having the peer support, we hear a lot of people that say, oh, well, I can't find a really good therapist because they're not affiliated with anything public safety. And that's the truth. I mean, obviously, that therapist does not have to be public safety driven, because some people just mesh well with whoever they get into. But the peer support, and I think, like you said, with the knowing that person and being involved in the same group of people, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. If you're able to do that, you're going to be more apt to open up and speak to those people more freely. So I think that definitely has more of an effect, especially in the first responder community, if we have people that are in the peer support roles.
Yeah, correct.
So who makes up your peer support team, and what kind of training or experiences does your team members have?
So we have about 25 rostered members, and they are active firefighters as well as retired. one of the things that we caught onto early on was that having retirees as part of our peer program carries a significant amount of weight, not just in validating our program to newer members or even guys like in Mark's shoes with 20 plus years on. They see that 35-year vet that retired reaching out, that carries some weight. But it also gives a sense of purpose to the retirees. They're still connected, because you don't walk away from this job willingly.
Yeah. It's like a relationship. You know, you've been in a relationship with your spouse for 20, I mean, there's a minimum of 20 years. So you've been in a relationship with your spouse for 20 to 25 years, coming to work all the time and talking to them. And it's not like we just have it, like, you know, their family, you know, their kids, their dogs, cats, whatever, you know everything. Everyone knows everything about the individuals. And it's just like breaking up with a spouse, you know, you don't like all of a sudden you're like, it's gone, it's done. You know, people get divorced. I mean, some are happy, but you know what I mean? Like that initial, like
Some.
you get that emptiness inside of you, you know, when you bring up a relationship, that emptiness. And that's, you know, this helps with this is for the retirees. It helps with them to still be a part of it, you know, and it still gives them the connection to the fire department.
Mhm.
Not really the fire department, but the membership, you know, because they're fine, they're retired. But when you talk to the retirees, they're like, I miss the guys. I miss the guys. This and girls, but we only have a few girls. That's why, you know, they miss the
Come
people
on.
you miss the people you work with, you know, the camaraderie, the conversations. And, you know, when you go home, like your spouse, there's a different conversation at home with your spouse because they don't want to hear a lot of the things that you see and do. You know, like, oh, another one, another call. Okay. Like now relationships are. So, but this keeps them still active, you know, and still engaged with the membership, the members. So
It's family.
correct. Yes, it's family.
And
So,
But
go
I
ahead.
mean,
So what does it?
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I said one good thing about our 25 members is it's a diverse team, as in diverse as in personalities, because not everybody's gonna like everybody. It's just life, you know. It's a role. It's numbers. So there's different. There's the good thing with the 25 people is someone might not like me, and I'm fine with that. But if you like Bob, talk to Bob. Like I don't care who you talk to, as long as you talk to somebody. And you know, everybody's not gonna like everybody. So that's why I like the number of individuals that we have on the team. You know, because it gives your other member, the other guy, it gives them an option. You know, a wider option instead of going to, oh, I got to go see Mark or Bob. I get like, I don't, you know. But now if you have 25 different people, then it opens it up for a lot more.
there's no excuse now.
Correct.
Yeah, you can pick and choose. That's not a problem.
You can pick and choose.
And the other advantage with that diversity is experience. You know, not just experience on the job, but life experiences. And when we go to recruit team members, we have a questionnaire that we have them fill out that says, you know, have you had exposure or experience to a list of different things, and not just professional, but personal? Have you been divorced? Do you have kids? Have you ever lost a child, lost a parent? Have you ever struggled with substance abuse? And that stuff is all kept confidential to the team so that, you know, we'll use me for example. That way I'm not singling anybody out. Let's say I filled out that questionnaire as a new team member and I put on there that, yeah, I struggled with substance abuse. I had a drinking problem and I used hard drugs. That's not going to be broadcast to the other 700 members. That's within the team hierarchy and that's it. And it's on a piece of paper and it's put to the side. That way, if we have somebody reach out through one of the means that we have, instead of just direct contact, and we know that they're having a substance abuse issue, we're going to have them talk to somebody that has experience and exposure to that, whether it was a family member or themselves.
That's huge.
Mhm.
Huge.
And on that questionnaire, if our new members coming in to the team don't have the comfortability with exposing that, because let's say it was a family member, and everybody knows since social media has become so popular, you have your social media family and you have what really happens behind closed doors. You don't want to crack that image. It's not mandatory to fill that out, because right under that, it's, why did you want to join this team? And that's what we base our decision off of when we bring somebody in to help. If you're there for the right reason, we'll find a purpose for you.
Awesome. So what does a typical peer support interaction look like, whether that's after a tough call, during a crisis, or ongoing check-ins?
So we'll use the plum, the house explosion plum. Like you were saying before, he's like, we don't go out and search for answers. So we went out to Plum, and it was they had a very good showing of their members that showed up. We had about 7 individuals to go out with 2 of our clinicians went out as well, because they were the ones that reached out to. They reached out to us, but it was, you just sit around in a big, depending on where you're at, like it's room, it's just in a circle, and then you start talking. You break the
Break the ice.
break the ice, and you open it up, and then you start talking about yourself, like start talking about different things. But then the clinicians are always pretty good, because they know the trigger words, what to say. Like, they know the trigger words, but we can talk about the situation. So
Sure.
you work together with them, and they say a couple trigger words, and if someone responds, and mostly it's in a room, like if maybe 5 people, or this time it was in the bay there, and it was probably like 30 to 40 people that was out there. There's actually a therapy dog as well that I'm not even sure where it's from, but it's more or less in a room setting, like a nice environment, nothing special. Like, you shut the phones and everything off, because that's a distraction, obviously, TV. So that's usually it's usually just in a room or an open area, but you're all pretty much sitting around kind of like a circle, or at tables. You want to make the individuals happy and make them feel comfortable in their own environment when you speak with them, because that's when that's what they're at. They feel it's in your head, like, all right, I'm here in my house. But if you take them and say, well, you guys come meet us here, and they're going into a whole different totally environment where they don't know, so they're already on guard in their mind. If you're at their facility, they're already at ease, because they got that comfort of being at their own facility. Just like when you
It's
go
not taking them out of the comfort zone.
Then you sit at home and you can watch TV all day, but you go to a hotel room, it's like, it's not comfortable. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things in that group setting, that group format, your clinicians might throw those trigger words out here and there, but one of the things that has been extremely useful following that peer model to get people to open up is that, by nature, first responders are all competitive in our personality type. We will make a competition out of anything, no matter.
Hello there, Brittany.
And so when you walk in and you start to say, I've been there before, I've had that type of call, this was my experience. Well, that guy that it's really eating at, in his head, it's, nah, fuck you, man. Mine was worse. Here's what mine was. And then you get them once they start to talk and that wall comes down, it's a flood. And you're able to get, to the root of something and help that person start to process and or heal. And then you hand them the resources, and now they're like, you know what? I can walk into that therapist office and sit down and do that.
So this might be a little bit off subject, but sort of still remains on subject. So as a peer compared to the CISM team, I've heard a few things from other guests that sometimes those debriefings, they turn into like a tit for tat, and like, I have this story, but I'm going to compete with your story. And, how does that get worked out in the peer group? Like, how do we refrain from doing that, so we're not just trying to compare stories? so you can actually get to the root of the problem and find out what really triggered that response out of that responder.
So it starts with when the tit for tat starts, you have that third person, because as a peer model, you never go solo. You're never solo. There's one person that's doing the primary engaging, and the other person is watching.
Okay.
So that if the first responder or group of first responders that you're working with start to spiral out, that other person is watching and is able to pick up on that, to step in and stop that happening.
Yeah, you can interact with the individuals, and it's just like when you're at work or you're with your friends, and then someone's telling bullshit. You're like, okay, but obviously you don't use it that type of way, but you're just naturally, you learn how to change the subject on people and reel them back in a professional way. It's because you're not sitting around with a bunch of friends, but but growing up just in life, you've been around that as much. So when that third person's sitting there, depending on how many people we have, like, you always have at least one person just more quiet, not speaking as much as the lead, but that person's job is to scan the room, and make sure just this scan the room and make sure that everyone's staying on the same page, or you'll be able to watch people's different bodily moves, like just like they roll their eyes, just shake their head, or just different things, different reactions that are not normal to the conversation. That's when, like, the one person will notice it, and then you discreetly point it out to the lead or who else, like, on who to focus on, like what areas to focus. Like, you don't focus specifically on that person because you don't want to talk to that person as a group. You just generalize it,
Sure.
So, and you're kind of able to pick up on when it starts to go, typically it's not going to go tit for tat from the peer responder to the group or the individual that you're working with. You're opening up with that. I've been there. I had a call similar to that. This was my experience on that call, and this is what I struggled with. And when you keep it at that aspect, as opposed to, as I highlighted, everything becomes a competition. As you're starting to talk to those that group, they're seeing your story like, hey man, I thought you were here for me. That you're talking about your experience. Well, here's what mine was. And as soon as they get that, here's what mine was. Okay, what made that different from any other call that you've had like that? That's where you're able to flip that script. And so those other the other peer team members that you have in the room, like Mark said, you're scanning for the body response, whether they're shutting down, closing up, rolling their eyes, annoyed, anger. Because when I come in and I bring a team in for a group style debriefing, I have 3 or 4 chasers as well.
Okay.
So that if you're reacting badly, whether it's because you're reliving the call or you're angry, and more often than not, it's more anger focused and anger driven, that either you failed the public or failed your brothers and sisters on the job, or you failed yourself. And they completely internalize it. That anger drives them to get up, and anger is that secondary emotion. They get up and they'll storm out of the room. I'm not going to let you storm out of the room. You may go, but I'm sending 1 to 2 people with you. And now you're separate from the group, and we're able to focus in on just you. What set you off? That's not how it happened, man. That's not okay. Tell me how it happened. Let's sit down. Let's talk. And you're able to get that person out of that combative fight or flight mode, and they just break down and let it all out. And when that happens, that's how you're able to get them to those resources. And if they don't feel strong enough to do it on their own, listen, man, I'll drive with you. I'll sit down with you. We'll, if you want to do it via the phone, I'll sit across the couch from you, and we'll do, the telehealth. because everybody has that available now. And our experience has shown that, face-to-face appointments with a clinician is more what our people look for as first responders.
Yeah.
But we make sure that every option is available for them.
And just like you said, you if that person does storm out and you can really get them to break it down, that's where the healing can really begin. And fantastic, guys. So your teams responded to incidents outside of the city of Pittsburgh. How did that outreach begin, and what does that support look like for surrounding departments?
One of the benefits to being local one is that everybody knows who local one is.
Right.
You don't have to add other numbers to it and figure out who things are. Local one is local one. And our leadership team within the union has a ton of contacts, whether they're volunteer departments in smaller organizations or bigger paid departments, or
Right.
politicians, and other labor unions. Just our name being out there, and every time we put a foot forward with something like this, like our peer program, it's, oh my God, local one is doing this, and it spreads like wildfire. And those phone calls, I would say in the last 5 years, we've responded to 19 events outside of the city.
Oh, wow.
I would say 17 of those we were reached out to. 2 of them, we took we heard about it. We had connections within our department to that outside entity or to the member that it involved. And because of that, we reached out directly.
I will say, I mean, so another thing is our fire chief and 2 assistant chiefs, they also have a good network of other chiefs around the area, because they're involved in a lot of different things as well. So which helps. I will say, I'll give a shout out to our administration, like Chief Jones, Chief Akil, and Chief Davis. They are 100% behind us. They don't question, things. They're very supportive of the programs that we do and the peer support, the work that we have done. And I know other departments, sometimes they get pushback from their management, but ours has been 100% behind us the whole time. Whatever we need, they've given us, they let the individual on a peer team take off at night and backfill them with overtime. They're very, very generous what they do for us. But on the flip side, they know we're not abusing their kindness and generosity also, because they still have a boss to answer to as well. And they still have accountability. So we don't abuse what the length that they extend to us, like but as you know, in the fire service, they're like, oh, is it free? I'll take 3, but
Right.
with this, we're like, no, we're going to respect what we have and not abuse what we have,
And
so
it's a recurring thing. That is a recurring thing that we hear. We hear everyone saying we need to start with compassionate leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you don't have that support from your leadership, nothing's going to change.
That's the number one thing right there, is support from the leadership. If you don't have it from your fire chief and administration, then it's just, you're fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting with not fighting with your members, but you have the incidents with your members, but then you're fighting the administration. So it's like, I'm already dealing with these individuals, in which we volunteer to do, which is not a problem, but like, getting pushed back on the administrative side doesn't help the situation,
At all.
One of the things with these peer programs that you see, across the board, and it doesn't matter what line of work they're in, most of them are put on initially by their administration or their higher ups, which kind of pigeonholes you into a spot where you don't have the freedom and the autonomy to work outside of the box a little bit to get your membership the help that they need. our locals saw that need, created our peer team as local one's peer team, and then sat down with our administration and said, hey, this is what we're doing as a union. It's separate from the fire department, but these things will work a lot better for everybody involved if we have your backing and your support.
Yep.
And those three chiefs have gone, I don't want to say above and beyond, because it shouldn't be above and beyond. It should be normal everyday practice. But they've gone above and beyond to make sure not only that we have what we need to support our members, but that our members have the freedom to step out of those bounds, seek that help, and know that they're still going to have a job to come back to.
That's huge.
Funding's big as well.
Yeah.
And we in the fire department's budget, I don't know if it's actually in the actual budget, but our Chief Jones sets aside for us a budget that we can use for money. The finance is a big thing. Like, I don't know the technical side of it on, is it actually in the budget, this and that? I don't know how he gets the money, because that's his job. But we do have money that's allocated to the peer support team that we can use every year. Now you go to a small people, we'll say Dormont. Dormont has 3 paid firefighters. Do you think they can afford a peer team? No. And then it's just 3 of them. So that's another, thing for us is we do one thing about us is we will go to volunteers and paid. We don't look at the individual as, oh, you're a volunteer. Like, we can't help you out. No, we're all on the same team here. It doesn't matter just because you choose to do it or where you live, like you're paid or you're volunteer. We're all the same at the end. We're all fighting the same issues, regardless of your paycheck.
Yep. It's a huge deal, man. So you created the First Responder Trauma Group. What makes this group different from peer support or therapy?
So we had, the way our trauma group started, we had 2 of us that, I can't even say 2 of us initially. We had one guy who was really adamant about it because of doing the group programs through the VA.
Okay.
So he found a program to basically like a train the trainer program. And he came to me and said, hey, how do we go about doing this? And I said, well, we can't form a group if we're not trained for it. And he said, okay, well, here's the training. And I said, all right, I'll do it with you. We paid out of our pockets, went through the program, and then we presented it to the e-board and the peer team. First we started with the peer team saying, it's going to be separate from the peer support team, but it needs to work in conjunction with the peer team. It needs to be one of the resources that we have available, as well as I need someplace to hold it. And the peer team said, yeah, hey, we're going to back this 100%. And then we went to the e-board and said, hey, this is what we want to do. And the board said, all right, well, how do you go about doing it? And is it going to be just for our members? We said, no, it needs to be a first responder trauma group because there isn't anything like that out there. Right. So then our e-board reached out to the international, and we're talking with the international because that was at the time that the IFF was starting to build their peer program as a model for all the locals to work from. And the guy that was in charge of that said, listen, there's no first responder trauma groups. You have them for vets, and there's no licensed clinicians at those meetings. It's essentially that group peer therapy. And you say therapy because there's no other word for it.
Right.
But you sit down and you have somebody, I typically facilitate the meeting. I have 2 or 3 other guys that are always there, that are part of the peer team, that when one of us has had too much and needs a break, we don't have to stop the group. So we have, there's 3 of us that are on the flyer to be reached out to if you have questions for it. But essentially it's like when you watch any of those newer war movies and you see everybody sitting in a circle talking about PTSD and their experiences. That's what our trauma group is, and that's what it's there for. And it's, again, it's on that peer-to-peer model where you're able to share your coping experiences and essentially best practices on how to process what transpired and go to work. The hardest part about it is to keep it from being a bitch session.
Yeah. That's what I was referring to before, whether it's the bitch session or my stories, it's worse than yours, just comparing those stories.
And the hardest thing is to keep it from being a bitch and blame session. And that's when, the handful of us to facilitate the group we'll take a break from it. Hey,
yeah,
that's not what this is here for, guys. Let's get a breath of fresh air, grab a water, or you just outright change the topic for a second and let everybody reset.
Yeah.
And because it's all first responders, the best way to reset that tone, if you can't get everybody to stand up and walk out for a second and have them come back in, is ball busting. You get a little ball busting session for a second, and then, all right, let's get back on track, guys.
Reset.
Bart, you were saying that this, and this. Okay, what triggered that? What makes you keep seeing that? And then everybody's back on point, and that glimmer of anger for a second, because again, it always boils down to anger.
Yeah.
It's that anger's that secondary emotion. And if you can remove that secondary emotion, you can get to the ones that, everything that's triggering those experiences.
I think, like you said, it's the anger and then those type A personalities that are so prevalent in public safety.
Right. And so with the trauma group, we meet twice a month. We keep it very, very formalized in that aspect so that that it's always there. It's like Sunday church. That you're always going to have church on Sunday. Whether you're religious or not, that church down the street is having a service on Sunday.
I'm taking you to church. Let's go.
Yeah. So every first and third Monday, we meet at our union hall. I think in 6 years, I've canceled 2 meetings. One, because it was on a real holiday, not a bank holiday. It was like, I think it was Labor Day. I canceled Labor Day. And then I canceled one due to the storms that we had around the area not too long ago. Because I didn't want people trying to travel through that and deal with all that nonsense. But there's times that I'll show up at 5:30 to unlock the doors and set the room, and I have 6 or 7 cars sitting out on the street at 5:30, and then at 6 o'clock I have 15, 20 people walking the door.
That's awesome.
And then there's times that I sit there for a half an hour by myself, twiddling my thumbs, but can't lock that door. I know there's been 2 instances where we had me and another guy, one of the ones I have helped me run it, Tom. Him and I are sitting in there, and it's just him, it's just us two. We bullshitted for a little bit, caught up on the week, and we go outside, and there's 2 other cars in our parking lot. I'm like, what the hell? So I go over and I knock on the window. Hey, man, what's going on? What are you here for? They have that trauma group here. I said, yeah, I know. I'm the guy that does it. Were you going to come in? I don't know. Like, it started at 6 though. So I figured that it means nothing, bro. Let's go. I don't know if I can go in. And Tom's talking to the other guy. There's 2 cars, people that had the courage to come.
They just couldn't take that step
out of the car and walk in. So we sat in the bed of on the tailgates of trucks and in the bed of a truck and bullshitted outside till it got too damn cold. I mean, stuff like that happens. And with that trauma group, having the availability of it is astronomical, because it tends to be that stepping stone to get somebody to go and get the help that they need. Other times, that trauma group is all they needed.
And it's huge for people like you to give your time to do that for other brothers and sisters, man. It's huge. But now, why do you think it's that kind of group is so rare, and like, what kind of impact have you seen from it?
I think the rarity behind it is,
Let's say it's open up to everybody, like just not just fire, it's fire, police, medics. We open up to stat medics, basically public safety,
Yeah.
as a blanket, and some nurse people like stat medivacs, they're nurses, so you have that as well because they have a peer team as well. That's what I would say is different from our group. Is it our group is for the majority is it's all local one members, the Bureau of Fire members. This opens up to everybody, public safety, in the area.
but I think that we're the only one around because it's a foreign concept. Everybody tries to associate a group like that to just vets and veterans, and you saw the same thing with PTSD. First responders can't have PTSD because that's a military thing, and that's one thing. And Mark hates to hear things like this, but I'm going to give a shout out to our e-board and those guys, because they were very instrumental in lobbying for that new Act 121 in the state of PA, where PTSD isn't PTSD anymore. It's PTSI. And with it being an I, that's I is for injury. And now it's work comp covered. I mean, that's astronomically huge. We as a local had the avenue because of the support of our administration and the peer team and the work that we've done to be able to get somebody out of a firehouse, get them the help they need without fear of losing their job. Guys would work for other people, cover their shifts. We would put up a buddy list. Nobody was going to go without insurance or a paycheck. Now we have the means that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, insurance will pick it up now.
And that's huge.
That's what we saw. Our friend Josh Shimko from Cranberry, he came on and he went through his critical incident, and he fought his department left and right. I believe it's still in litigation with it. But I believe the new PTSI bill, it starts in October. Will that be like implemented this coming October? So, unfortunately, he's not grandfathered in or anything, but that is huge.
There's a 2-year look back once it goes into place.
Well, maybe then, hopefully, because I know he's been fighting it tooth and nail.
Yeah, I mean, but the rarity behind it is because this model of program with the trauma group, again, is strictly built off. We're not out to reinvent the wheel. Shit works; it's already there, and you just have to put a different label on it to get people to come in. It's the new look, something shiny, and that's all it is. The impact behind it is that it has definitely gotten. There's been guys that have come through that group, whether they have been local one or from an outside entity, that would never have sought help any other way.
So how do first responders get connected to your team?
Call me.
Which team? The peer team or the they're the trauma group, which
the trauma group.
The trauma group?
Yeah. Word of mouth, call him, word of mouth. Like we just did last week was we did a fire ops. The union put a fire ops on, and one of the stations was peer support. And we had some politicians, there were, I'd say out of 25 people, 20 were politicians. State, local and state. We invited so most of our bills in Harrisburg go through the Veterans Affairs Committee. So we invite both the House side and Senate side, the committee members. So when they're voting on our stuff, they have an idea of what it is. But when they were coming to the peer room where Bob and I was speaking, Representative Mandy Steele from Fox Chapel area. Like Fox Chapel obviously don't have an issue with money, but Blawnox and other things like that. So your question is, how do people know? It's basically through word of mouth, through us, reaching out and speaking about it. Like word of mouth. It's Pittsburgh's 2 degrees of separation. I'm sure if we talk to both of you, I'm sure we're gonna know someone within 2, maybe 3 people at the most. So but for us now, we're hitting the politicians for you, because I've been doing our politics for lobbying for about 18 years now. I've been going to Harrisburg, so I have a good relationship with the politicians, and that's one avenue. Like I have that avenue, and I know Bob doesn't, but that's why it's good working as a team as well. Is one good thing about the team. It's just who got the bigger stick. No one cares. Like, let's just get the job done, and who has the better resources for the specific people you're targeting. Like I can hit politicians better than even other guys on the board. So it's just right now it's networking. I know that's on my side of it, with more on politicians, and we let them know, like, look, you guys are more than your individuals are more than welcome to come as well.
Because on Mark's side with the politicians, a lot of them are asking, how do we get this type of support to our departments?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are, rural, volunteer, and smaller departments. How do we get this stuff out to them? And that's where Mark and other e-board members that have that connection to those politicians, that's where that's been extremely beneficial in publicizing that work. The rest of it has been, telephone, tell a friend, tell a fireman. It's social media, and responding with other, to outside agencies. I always make sure that we have a flyer, whether it's digital or not, or both. Every first and third Monday, there's probably 25 text threads that I send up, hey, trauma group is meeting on this day. And just for them to put it out. I know that 3 of the outside entities that we've worked with have a giant message board, display board in their apparatus bay, and the trauma group flyer goes through that. I get a photo or a text message about it every now and then. Hey, did you do a new flyer? Do I need to change it? We've been called out just because of connections through the resource list that we have. The Malone Foundation did a big mental health rally a couple weeks ago, and we were out there for that, for the trauma group and part of that. I didn't have fancy shit to give away like every other group that was there. I didn't have a pull-up bar like the Army National Guard or any of that stuff, or a Humvee like the Marines. But yeah,
I had a flyer.
I had a flyer, and I was front and center. I made sure I was early enough that I got the spot in the shade that everybody wanted to congregate under, right by the merch table. So you couldn't walk past me without getting one of my flyers. The Malone Foundation put it on their program. It came across the scoreboard on every intermission break. The big, I get teased from the connections we have in there. They had a gala. You can't really call it a gala, she said, but it was featured there on the screen as one of the resources around for mental health for first responders. And we've housed veterans when the VA groups have gone down. The people that regularly attend, hey, I had 3 or 4 vets reach out to me. Their group therapy program that's the same model as this closed because the VA just moves people all over the place at any whim with no worry about repercussions to the people they're servicing. Hey, can we give them a home for a little bit until they find another one? And, they welcome them in with open arms. And I think that aspect of it has been where the greatest impact has come, because it's not just those that have a passion for the first responder mental health. It's those that have reached out, gotten help, or gotten the assistance they've needed, and said, hey, I can do this now for somebody else. And that's how it has grown, and that's how it has spread.
And like for me on my side, and I am in Harrisburg a lot, and I speak when the PTSI bill was going through, I was able, you speak to more people on the individuals on the committee, but you see a lot of local politicians, local state reps and senators from this area, but it's not just this area. It goes as far as Butler as well. So it's just word of mouth, and us basically self-promoting, which helps out a lot because like when you get up in the Butler and outside the city, you go from like Pittsburgh is a big department and everything else, you start to dwindle that down, and then it's all volunteers, and we let them be known, like, hey, like I said it earlier, like we don't care if you're a volunteer, if you're paid, like we're all on the same page here. We leave that, to wherever, we don't bring it in with us. Because that way the volunteer people, those little volunteer departments in the rural areas, how are they going to get their help?
Yeah.
The one rate state rep, she was from Butler County. She was at our fire ops as well because she's on the committee. Speak with her. Like, look, you can let your individual. They're more than welcome to come to it. They just got to drive 45 minutes, but still, the option is there. So, but another thing we started last year is we peer coordinating. So the IAFF has a monthly meeting with peer coordinators in the IAFF. You just got to every month you get the email and I register and sign on to it. And I'm like, why don't we do that here? Like Bobby and I was talking, and I said we should do something like that here. So I can't take no credit. Like he got the list together, set the meeting up, and you can come to, like, we hosted at the hall. You can come in person or a Zoom. We do Zoom. That's another reason for that meeting owl. Google it. It's like it's amazing. It doesn't even move. It just stands there, and they have cameras all on the top of it.
That's wild.
So
It's made by Skynet.
yeah, it was. So I seen it. We were at the treasurer's office up in Harrisburg, and they were having a meeting, and they were showing us the treasurer's office up there. They were giving us a tour, and they opened the room, and there was a meeting, just like you can't see it here, but a big long table with 20 seats around it. I'm like, of course, oh, what's going on? We're doing a Zoom meeting. I'm like, what is that thing? They're like, oh, it's the meeting owl. And I'm like, huh. So they told me about it, and then people start talking because they put you on a screen and a TV. Like we have the TV right here. You can just hook it up. And that's where I got the meeting owl from. And that's why I want to get one for here. Is so
we need one
podcast. We can host not the podcast, the coordinate. Yeah, peer team coordinators group. That was a little bit off track. So you should have reeled me in.
You already have me reeled in on the meeting owl. I need to buy one.
So, but us hosting a quarterly peer coordinators team meeting every quarter. So that helps get the word out as well, and we promote it, to the peer coordinators around the county.
And we're 2 meetings deep with that, and it started with it's us, the Pittsburgh City Police, their team is called PMAP, Police Members Assisting Police. The city medics, their peer program is in fledgling status, and part of that is because they'd lost their peer program because they'd lost members. The medics are struggling just as bad as the cops are with just people
overworked, membership overworked.
And then we had county dispatch and the ME's office. So starting there with that network, we're sharing. It's the whole point behind that peer coordinator meeting is to share best practices, combine our resource lists, because if it's good for fire, it's going to be good for medics. It's going to be good for police. It's going to be good for the MEs. It's going to be good for the dispatchers. And then, and obviously share training opportunities, because everybody knows, you get a couple bucks thrown at you. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it, and they're going to move that money somewhere else. So if you're going to host a class, I'll find bodies to put in seats for you, and vice versa. That way that we can continue to grow these programs. And then the next step, our next evolution, we're hoping by first quarter of next year, is to start bringing in peer programs that are outside of that government label of the city of Pittsburgh or the county of Allegheny. Bring in, say a Mount Lebanon Fire and Police, bring in a, Munhall and Stat Medvac, bring in these smaller entities or even larger entities that are further out that have a further reach to, again, share best practices, build that resource list, and increase training opportunities.
I'm going to shift gears on you for a minute before Bart wraps it up. If a firefighter or first responder is listening right now and struggling, what would be the first step to reach out let's see, I'm going to actually combine a few things for you guys. And how do you approach someone who is clearly struggling that doesn't want to talk?
So for reaching out, for the trauma group or anything like that directly, my phone number is more public knowledge than 911. So 412-452-3968. You can call, text me. My phone's on 24 hours a day. As far as otherwise, our new website is going to be up and running here soon. We will have info for the peer team and the trauma group there that will be public and not a members only section.
So one good thing about our program as well is confidentiality. It's what we didn't speak about yet. So if a member wants to speak to me, and like Bobby or vice versa, they can. But if the member doesn't want their name put on anything, then we have the app, the Cortico app that the city pays for, which is again another great resource from the city, and it's a big bill. I never knew how much apps cost to run, but I heard it's over 20 grand that the city pays for. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, our administration is very supportive, just because they're not out there promoting it, but they behind the scenes, they do a very good job as well. But everything's confidential. So when I log into the app, I use the same username and password that Bobby does. All of our membership has the same username and password. And that way, when we tell our members, like, look, you don't have to talk to me, you don't have to talk to the team, but just go on the app or the website. It should be done up and running within the next 2 weeks. I have a final meeting this week on it. Since I'll be running our website, we'll have a peer tab as well on the website. But nowadays, let's be real, like, this younger generation, and I say that, I mean, I feel like I'm old, but I don't feel like I'm old, but like, this is starting my 26th year, but everything is this. This is what everyone's on right now. They're like this. Kids are like this. It's all they do. Down to teenagers up to, 30, 40 years old. And we have a young department now. So I see the younger generation going right on their phone. But in the older generation will go onto the laptop and go on the website. But everything, again, no matter what you use, it's all confidential. I mean, and the insurance, everyone that's on, every individual clinician and program that's put on there has been vetted by us, but it's also covered by I'm talking for Pittsburgh only. Our insurance covers all the programs that are on our app. So that helps us a lot. That's how we get our members to engage. Like, if you don't want to talk to us, that's the original question. How do we get our members to engage? If you don't want to talk to us, that's fine. You don't have to. You can go straight to the clinician or whatever program you want. And the only one who knows who you're talking to is you and that individual on the other side. All the individual is to us, we get feedback is a number of users who used it. You don't get no name,
just aggregate data.
Yeah. So that's how we like to reach out, and we like to stress the point of our confidentiality, because you do have those guys that don't want to talk about shit, or girls. They don't want to talk about it to anybody except the professional. So, and that's why we say, look, we got the same logins. So I don't know what you're doing. You might know on me or him or them, but here, go do that. That's how we present it,
But you could also walk into any firehouse in the city of Pittsburgh and say, "Hey, I need to get in touch with your guys' peer team members," and somebody in that firehouse is going to say, "Okay, here, I got you," and make a phone call. And one of my 25 team members, if it's not me or Mark, is going to answer that phone and get that person the help they need. We're super accessible.
Yes. And again, people don't, the younger generation, they don't even like to talk. They don't even, I had to go take a return to work physical today, basically a piss test. And a guy I was at Concentra in town, or Mercy Akinet, and I watched this guy come in, and the father and his son come in. His son was probably 18 years old, and the dad's filling out his job application. I'm like, the
Oh my gosh.
What is that?
yeah. So the younger generation they don't want to talk to people anymore. They want to, sit there and look at their phone. They don't want to talk to people. But that's the furthest.
Or shake your hand.
Sorry?
I said, or shake your hand. Stand up to shake your hand. How about that?
Right?
And then social media, we use that to promote the different events and the trauma group. I've created reels and whatever I can do in my limited knowledge to promote it.
It's well promoted in the field, in the fire stations, with the flyers and the cards and things. Every house has a card and the card for the peer group and a flyer for the trauma group in the stations. If at least one, if not multiple places in each firehouse. So we're pretty well easily accessible to members,
Have you guys seen a shift in recent years around mental health culture in the firehouses?
1,000%. We stated earlier that the mentality was suck it up, buttercup, drive on. You're starting to hear now everywhere you go, it's okay to not be okay. If you need to sit down and talk to somebody, let's get you to that person you need to talk to. And that culture swing is astronomically huge. I can't say enough about it. And it's, not just from, folks like you guys and us putting the word out there, but it's coming from that leadership role. The chiefs and the department heads and city council and government entities, everybody across the board recognizing that need and seeing that, PTSD it's not post-traumatic stress is not a disorder. It's an injury. Burnout is a real thing. Compassion fatigue is a real thing. And how do we address this in our first responder community so that those people that have that calling for that kind of work, because not just anybody can do it, can continue to help our community thrive and stay safe.
So guys, what's the future of the peer support team, and are there any new initiatives or trainings on the horizon?
So always looking for trainings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the future is the key. The future is to keep growing and keep growing and promoting. That's the future. The good thing is you have national agencies that are starting to pick up on this more and more. When I say that, I'm speaking of the IAFF. So I've gone to training with them for 20 years now, leadership training. At every time there's leadership training, either in our district, which in our district is West Virginia, Maryland, and PA. So at our district meetings and in the IFF meetings or trainings, there's always a peer support class. So it is recognized by the IFF at our top level. It's an important issue to the point where we have our own. The IFF has their own department for peer support now.
Oh wow!
So that's a huge help on our union side of it. Then promote everything's. it's national. Like I'm not sure what the police have, but I know for the IFF. And then the good thing is like for us as a local, I like to speak to us specifically, is like we will reach out to the communities because we know that we're blessed by the support that we have from the administration that's, and then on the union side, from our union leadership all the way up to our general president in the IFF. So that's one thing we're blessed with. And so we like this, like Bob said earlier, local one, we like to be in the front of everything. We like to be leading the way. So that's why that's the good thing about us is we're still looking for more things that more ways to grow and different trainings to grow with. But that, again, growing comes with, for me personally, I can't sit there and look on the internet and find stuff. I'm a talker. So the international, when I go to these conferences, it's just networking,
Yeah.
to see what's the next thing out there that we can learn. Cause you're always going to learn, I wish someone would have told me that in high school. Maybe I would have, I was like, I'm going to the military. I'm not going. Who cares about it? Like, fuck college. I ain't going there. I don't want to study. No one told me.
Same way.
Yeah, like my dad was a truck driver. He's 78, still works the movies, but I'm like, and he makes good money. Motherfucker makes a lot of money, actually. So that's a different story. But no one ever told us growing up, and you didn't have, like, I didn't have the internet or nothing. Like, hey man, you're gonna have to learn every step in life. You got to learn and grow. I just thought you wake up. So I watched my dad wake up every day my whole entire life. Wake up, go to work. Never seen him. I do a book. He did crossword puzzles, but like, if I would have went to know, like, hey, whenever you get in the military, like, you still got to learn your job. So you still got to study. I'm like, then you get on the job. You want to make more? You got to study. Everything's studying.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Now, yeah. Now peer support, you're just learning and studying more and more. So you're growing as individuals, as a department, individuals as a department, you just keep growing and building that model, to be the best that you can.
And some of the trainings that we're looking at bringing in, ER for ER, we're looking at different suicide awareness and suicide prevention programs. We are in the talks with an individual for compassion fatigue and burnout. Because, aside from PTSI, I feel that those are the two biggest items that are the downfall of any first responder. Going and answering that call for that frequent flyer, knowing that they're just going to be cycled back out. Well, on the fire and the medic side, you're pumping that, Narcan into the same person over and over again, knowing that in 2 days or next turn, you're going to be doing it again. For the police, that they're arresting the same person for the same thing, and a week later that they're back out. The person's still breaking the law, but you feel like it's clearly the definition of insanity. Yeah. You have to be insane to be a first responder because you're beating your head off of a wall.
Yep.
Constantly expecting
a different outcome out of the same thing.
Yeah. So that, looking for stuff along those lines, compassion fatigue and burnout, just how to process that type of stuff and continue to still find the passion for your job. Because without that passion, you're not an effective first responder. And if you're not an effective first responder, why are you here?
Yeah.
You need to be an asset, not a liability.
Correct. And another good thing is with our union as well is how you asked about training and things like that. A lot of people, like Ralph Socorro's our president, him and I are very tight. Like, we pretty much rose up through union leadership together. He was the president. But one thing people don't see is he calls me out. He'll call me out on bullshit. So with training, I can't say, hey, let's learn how to put this piece of paper together today. In the next class, what are you going to do? We're going to put this piece of paper together. He'll call me out on it, like, you just did that last month. You need to get something. You need to grow. That's one good thing. Like, even though we have the flexibility, we still have a drive behind us. Like, we will get called out internally if we don't grow as well, because, he wants the best for everybody, but he also wants to make sure we're going on that right path instead of we're not stagnant. We don't want to be, he don't want us to be stagnant, keep growing. And he will call us, he'll call me out on it. Everyone laughs and like, oh, Ralph gives you whatever you want. I'm like, motherfucker, I think that's more than any of you people. You just don't see it. Like, I mean, like I'm good friends with him, but he's also not afraid to be a leader and say, hey man, like you just did this last month, you know,
Let's step it up.
step it up, step it up. Like, let's go. This isn't, we want to, he's making sure as well, like we have our checks and balances. He's making sure that we as a peer team are putting out a good product also for our members. So
For sure.
that's where that growth comes from.
And that leadership team also, anytime they hear about something, instead of doing the legwork and the research behind it, they come to us and say, hey, the IFF is putting on this training, or Upper St. Clair is putting on this class, or BC3 is putting on this program. Is this something you guys would be interested in? Here's all the info. They give us the freedom to dig up that stuff, but the second they hear about something, they make sure that we know about it.
Yes. That's one thing our last president, Joe King, taught, like Ralph and I, is you don't hold back information from members. Because when Ralph and I started going to Harrisburg and learning the politicians, meet people, we would always go back to the room, and then on the way up, like you debrief, like this is what we come in, this is what you learned, what you didn't learn. And we still have that model of we're not in it for ourselves. Like I'm not doing nothing on the side to try to promote, to get something different than, like, say, I'm not holding information back from Bob. We all grow as a team together as well. And that's one good thing is Ralph doesn't micromanage us, because he lets us grow and lets us, learn and try to bring more stuff back. So we're not a micromanaged team either. We're overseen, but not micromanaged, which helps us too. It's, instead of relying on one person, it's the whole.
Lets you do your own job.
For everything. Yes.
Fantastic. So, guys, if there's one message you want to leave with first responders listening today, what would it be?
Call Bob.
That message 100% is that it's okay to not be okay. You've recognizing that there's something going on and doing something about it. Treat yourself like that call. Somebody calls 911, and to that person, it is their worst day. It is their worst experience. And you're showing up, and they are expecting you to fix it. That you have the tools, the training, the know-how, the wherewithal to fix it. You know that something is wrong with you. You know this, you have the tools, you have the wherewithal, and you have the resources to get it fixed. Do it. Your body's calling 911. Everybody thinks that mental health is just here. There's a physiological response to that. You feel it in your shoulders, your neck, your stomach, all of it. You know that something is wrong. Your body's called 911. Now fix that problem. Realize that there's that issue, that it's okay to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Recurring. It is okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
That's driving it home, guys. And for the families and friends of first responders, what would you want them to understand about what their loved ones might be carrying?
For me, this is a tough one because I have a unique advantage of being married to a first responder.
Me too.
Right? When there's something that's weighing on us, we can turn to that spouse and they understand. Know that your first responder family member wants to talk to you, wants to tell you what's going on, wants you to be that rock that you are for them in every other aspect of life. But know that they're trying to protect you. Because as first responders, we experience thousands of traumatic events and episodes throughout our career. And our nature is protective. We're protecting our family member from knowing about those things. And know that they're not shutting you out. It's a defense mechanism. Just remind them that it's okay, and that if they need to talk, you'll talk. If they can't talk to you, you'll find them somebody to talk to, whether it's a coworker or a mental health professional or a group like our trauma group. Let them know that you will help them find that and navigate their way through it. You don't have to know the details. You don't have to be a part of it, but you're that support system.
And it's okay for family members to reach out to us as well. You know, I mean, I know a friend of mine from one of his instances, and I was in his wedding, and I reached out to his wife. I was like, hey, so-and-so, I was like, just keep an eye on him. She's like, okay. Just no. She's like, okay, like, all right, yeah, I'll keep. She's like, how's everything going? I'm like, listen, he's like, might be going through some stuff, and sometimes spouses don't really, most of the times they really don't know what we do and we see. So, but for the spouses, it's okay to reach out to us as well. Don't hesitate, because like, again, on our website, we're going to have a tab that, that spouses can see as well. Anybody can see, that we want people to have as much information out there as we can have, that help them understand some of what we see. As spouses majority of spouses they don't see what we see, and we don't take it home. Some do, most people don't take it home. So it's okay to ask for them to ask us questions, ask your the leadership that your spouse works with, it's okay to reach out to them as well.
Now, is your website available to your members, or is it for everyone?
So it'll be two-part. It'll be open for everybody. Then we'll have a members only section that you have to log in, and we control that. But the information for our peer will be available for everybody.
That'll be on the
fantastic.
Correct. And our members peer will be locked on the inside.
And do you have the website address now, or is that going to be put out once it's released?
I will have it. I have to check and see what it is.
Okay.
I just have the link, and I've been going on the link and changing different things on the link. So I never paid attention to what our actual local website is.
Well, make sure I get that information so I can just plaster it right across your guys'.
Yes.
Absolutely.
When would you need that by?
It's going to be a few weeks. You guys aren't going to be released for at least
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, 3-4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer.
So I'll get it to you the night before.
Yeah, hey, as long as we have it, so it can be put on here.
Bob.com.
Yes.
Bob.com.
I'll get no, actually on Thursday or Friday is we're having our website up. Our e-board is meeting to go over the website and everything on it. So I'll have it within the next week. I can have it within the next 10 minutes.
It's fine.
I'll just have it within the next week. So,
well, gentlemen, this has been a wealth of knowledge. We really thank you for giving us all your expertise, for putting it out there with the peer support and the trauma team here. It is. We thank you so much for reaching out. Like we really appreciate it. We want to get those resources out to our viewers, and I'd say 99% of our viewers are first responders. So I mean, it's just another resource, another tool in the tool belt for everyone to be able to use. So thank you guys. If anyone would like to reach out, check us out at twwc.podcast@proton.me. Reach out to us on our email so we can get back to you to get you guys on the show. Bob, Mark, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
We appreciate you guys. You guys have a good rest of the day. Stick around for a minute. We'll see you later.
Absolutely.